Hello, and welcome back to InfoCardia, where our goal is to summarize major clinical trials in the field of cardiology in less than 10 minutes. If this is your first time on the channel, please consider giving us a like, comment, or subscription so you never miss a short informational video. Today's video will begin a new topic. This series will cover antiplatelet and anticoagulant medications. So without further ado, let's begin today's video. The subject of today's video is the PROACT Xa trial. The PROACT Xa trial is also known as the prospective, randomized, on-X anticoagulation clinical trial. The purpose of this study was to determine whether or not the factor Xa inhibitor, apixaban, was non-inferior to warfarin, which is an inhibitor of coagulation factor synthesis. The PROACT Xa trial was a prospective, randomized, open-label trial. The major eligibility criteria for this study required that participants be greater than 18 years of age, have a mechanical aortic valve in the last 3 months of the study, be able to have a targeted INR range between 2.0 and 3.0. Additionally, participants were required to take aspirin 81 milligrams or have a documented contraindication to taking aspirin. Subjects were split into two groups. Subjects who were prescribed apixaban received 5 milligrams twice daily. There were, however, dose reduction criteria. In individuals whose age was greater or equal to 80 years old, or body weight less than or equal to 60 kilograms, or a creatinine greater than or equal to 1.5 milligrams per deciliter. Any individual who met any one of these criteria would receive the reduced dose of 2.5 milligrams BID. The second group was assigned warfarin. Subjects in this group would be required to take warfarin as an anticoagulant with a targeted INR between 2 and 3. There were two primary endpoints for this trial. The first primary endpoint was any valve thrombosis. What defined valve thrombosis? This was any thrombosis not related to an infection, but was found on or near the on-X mechanical valve. The second primary endpoint was any related thromboembolism. A related thromboembolism was any thromboembolic event that was definitely caused by the on-X valve. Thromboembolic events included thromboembolic CVA, transient ischemic attack, myocardial infarction, or arterial thromboembolism. There was one important primary safety endpoint for this trial. The primary safety endpoint was defined as any episode of external or internal bleeding. This could be an event like bleeding that causes death, hospitalization, necessitated transfusion, pericardiocentesis, or reoperation. This study occurred between May of 2020 and September of 2022. There was a key event in September of 2022. The Safety Monitoring Board decided to stop the trial on the basis of the apixaban group having a greater rate of thromboembolic events than those assigned to warfarin. It was noted that the hazard ratio for reaching a primary endpoint for the apixaban group versus the warfarin group was 2.6. This carried a 95% confidence interval of 1 to 6.7. Here we have the Kaplan-Meier failure rate curve. The utility of this curve is that it shows the cumulative number of primary endpoints that are reached by each group. It's important to note that the apixaban group, after 24 months of the duration of the trial, had a failure rate of greater than 5%, while the warfarin group, after 24 months, was less than 2. The conclusion of this study was that apixaban failed to prove non-inferiority over warfarin, specifically in individuals with the on-X mechanical heart valve. Lastly, we would be remiss not to mention the safety endpoints for this trial. If we recall, the safety endpoints were any major bleeding events. Between the apixaban group and the warfarin group, there was no statistical significance in the number of major bleeding events. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you like what you saw and heard, please consider liking this video and leaving a comment down below. If you know somebody that might like this information, feel free to share. As always, thank you for joining us here at InfoCardia, and we hope to see you next time.